Okay, welcome back everyone. This is episode 6, I believe, of our Dungeon Crawler series. In today's episode, we're going to be adding quite a few cool things. The first thing I'm going to get you to do is to download this pixel asset. It's a little explosion. So I'm going to download it as well. I'm going to go into it, and I'm going to use number 1. You can use whichever one you want, but that is the one I'm going to use. And if I go into my project, I'm going to put it in the mobs file. So I'm going to drag the frames, drag it in. Okay, there we go, it's in. And now if we check it out, never mind, we're not going to drag it in. Now what we're going to do is go into our hostile zombie. We're going to add an animated sprite. Rename this to death. And then we're going to create a new sprite frame. And then in here, we're simply going to rename this to death. And then we're going to click on the first one, and we'll scroll all the way down and hold shift and press on the last one. It'll select all of the ones in between. If you're on desktop, I'm not sure how to do that on Mac, but if you're on desktop, that's how you do it. And I'm going to set this to 25. And then let me just check the transformation I use for the death animation. It's going to be transform 1 minus 9. And then for the scale, it's going to be 0.3 for both. So now if I play it, it'll kind of play right in front of the player, right? So we're going to turn off playing. We're going to turn frame to 0 because we don't want it to be set to anything else. We're going to go to animation finish and connect it. All right, next thing we're going to do is we're going to change up the code. So now when I die, or when this player dies, we don't want to queue free. We want to do that after the animation finishes. So now we want to do a few things. The first thing is we're going to actually hide the player, right? The actual zombie itself. So we're going to do this dot hide. So we're going to get the animated sprite. This is the player itself, the zombie. We're going to hide it, just to kind of give that effect of it actually dying. And then we're going to get node death. There it is. And then we're going to play death. And then one thing we're going to do in between is we're going to chase equals false. So that way the death animation is not moving towards you while you're dying, right? And so we're going to take this and we're going to copy paste it right here as well, because that's also where we die. And now if we play it, it dies and it explodes. So that's cool. However, I also want this in our friendly zombie. So I'm going to go into my friendly zombie. And a cool feature that Godot has is I can right-click our friendly zombie here, merge from scene, and we're going to find the hostile zombie I just made, drag in the death one, and now we have our death animation here. So now I don't have to remake all that. And I'm going to connect the signal, and I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to replace the queue free with all this, and then I'm going to queue free here. And that is the only time it dies, so that should be enough. So now, every time one of my friendly ones dies, it explodes. So now I have little explosions whenever anything dies. So now the game looks a bit cooler. Awesome. Another thing I wanted to do is I want to take away the spawning as a click, right? Because later on, I'm going to be adding shooting to the game, and there are only 2 buttons, so we can't do that if we're using both of them already, right? So one thing we're going to do is we're going to go into our player. Let's close the hostile zombie. We don't need that anymore. Go into our player. We're going to add a timer. And then in this timer, I'll name it friendly zombie spawner. And then we're going to connect the timeout. We're going to go into our timer real quick, and we're going to turn on auto start. And then, and then we're going to go into our world, and we're going to go into the world script because this is where we're currently spawning it, right? We're going to take this, we're going to actually delete that, and we're going to copy this one. We go into our player, And then every time it times out, we're going to create a zombie, right? And then in our world script, there's two things we need. We need this one, and we also need the friendly zombie. So we're going to go to the top, and I'm going to copy paste that up there. So now we have the RNG and the friendly zombie. So one thing you might notice is the hostile zombies there. So we're going to control parts to replace all. I'm going to replace all. So now a little easier to like code that way. All right, now for the range, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it -10 and 10. 10 and -10. So that way it creates a box out around the player essentially, and it's going to spawn anywhere in that box. Imaginary box, I guess you can say. Oh, what's going on? Of course, we want to spawn it in the parent. So the player, we're spawning it from the player, but right above the player. So right here, front mobs. You can also just replace this and say get parent. And then we're going to launch one more time. And now nothing's happening. So we have to go and find out what. Let's see. From the zombie, auto start, node. What's going on here? Why is it not working? Instance, random range, position. Of course. Okay. So we need to get our position dot y and then add it to that random range that we just got. Position dot x plus random. There we go. So now this should work. So now every second it'll spawn a random zombie around me. And it's pretty close to me, so that way, even if I'm next to the wall, it most likely won't spawn away into the wall, I mean. This might do it, but that's okay. It kind of doesn't even collide with the wall, so kind of walks over the wall. All right. Ooh, I'm not sure why though. I guess they were out of range. But yeah, there we go. Now we have our little game here. The player can't do anything yet. In fact, the player is pretty weak. He just dies pretty quickly. In fact, let's actually make this slightly smaller and move it. Let's try to get it on top of that collision, so that way the collision's not completely messed up. So let's move that there, and then take this collision. We're going to actually lock this. I want to take this collision and drag it up just slightly. Now if I play one more time, no, that works. Anyways, I believe that is all I wanted to do for this video, because the next step is going to be a bit more complicated. What we're going to do in the next video, there's two things I'm going to do in the future. This might be in two different videos, but in our UI, essentially we're going to add a kind of like similar to a Minecraft bar, where we get to select different things that we're going to spawn. So whenever I select like the zombie, it's going to spawn the zombie, etc., etc. We're also going to add mana, because spawning should be free. In order to create a game that is fun and rewarding, we can't just start doing free things, right? So we want to kind of create a punishment system, essentially, where we're spawning things in equivalent to mana that we're using. So we'll add a mana bar, maybe on the other side. I'm not sure where yet. But yeah, so we want to start being able to spawn more than just these zombies. We're also going to want the player to be able to do something. So maybe we'll add a sword, we'll add a gun. I'm probably going to add some sort of staff, like a weapon that can shoot. So we're going to add projectiles to the game, which will be great and fun. But yeah, that'll be it for this video. It's pretty short, but I hope you guys liked the video. If you didn't, comment down below. If you did, still comment down below, please. It helps me a lot when I see your comments, and it helps me kind of know I'm doing something right. And like the video. Thanks, guys.